Hi, welcome to the stream tonight. Sorry, we're late. It's 8:30, obviously, or just past 8:30. Really appreciate you coming along. What we're going to talk about tonight is gaming hardware in general. We're going to be talking about the Xbox One, PS4, and we're going to go on and talk about the Xbox X and the PlayStation 5. Next-gen titles being... hang on one second. I apologise about that. I had that on my voice and I shouldn't have had it on. What we're going to talk about is the consoles, the new consoles and the new titles having a bigger price. Then we're going to talk about hardware in general, CPUs, GPUs, and we're going to talk about old stuff. We've got tonight with me North Cinematics, and we've got Chris from CT Gaming Zone. Gentlemen, if you'd just like to say hello, Chris, say hello. And we've got Ben from North Cinematics. So don't forget, just as we've started, if you could subscribe to Chris at CT Gaming Zone and Ben at North Cinematics. So, gentlemen, where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the consoles? Oh, go on, Ben. You go. You go. Pretty much, and I mean, obviously, we're moving on from the Xbox One X, and we're moving on from the PS4. What are you expecting from the new consoles, Ben?
Hopefully an increase in graphical fidelity, and I think it's going to be a massive jump really because obviously a lot of people say it holds back PC players because obviously when the consoles get outdated it kind of lags behind, so I think it's going to advance gaming a lot, but the only issue that I've got at the moment is really down to them still supporting the current gen, but I think once we get really past current gen, we stop that current gen support, I think we can move past that and then we're going to see a massive jump really. But just obviously because they're supporting current gen, I think that's going to hold back the real power of these machines. I think from what I've seen from the specifications, it does look like they're going to be a massive jump, so I just want to see the actual when we actually get to see these consoles get the full utilization, because I think at the moment we're not seeing fully what these consoles can do.
We've actually not seen them in action, have we? So we don't know, and we don't know. I mean, I think the Xbox is going to be backwards compatible, and I think they hinted at the PS5 being backwards compatible, so maybe that answered one of your questions.
That's good that they're doing backwards compatibility for both of the consoles. I think that's a big jump really. So it's going to help support obviously current gen games. So maybe if like games like Sandstorm and stuff like that, if they come onto the current gen, they obviously get supported by backwards compatibility. Well, if it does happen,
yeah, if it does,
let's just go with the facts.
Let's be positive. Let's be positive. Can I just put in there? Thick Rick, hello. Howard, hello. Is everyone hearing the other guys now? I think I didn't click on one of the things. I think everyone can hear now. If you could just let me know in the chat if you can hear myself and you can hear Ben and Chris. Yeah, apparently I'm getting a message, but as usual, everything's running fine till we start streaming, then it all goes tits up. But if you just let me know, fellas, if you can hear us now and if you can hear Ben and Chris. Go on, Ben. Sorry about that, mate.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just, I think this is this is big that they've gone for backwards compatibility. I think that's a good bold move actually by both the consoles. The only thing with me is I just really hope that PlayStation and Microsoft come together and they both decide to do cross play. But I think apparently from what I've heard, PlayStation and Microsoft don't like working together. So
well, I think it's more PlayStation though. In all fairness, apparently Microsoft want to work with Sony, but Sony always come out with, we want to protect our user base, blah 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 blah. Which to me, in all fairness, is a bit of bullshit. The competition should stop because I think the gamers and you've seen like on Warzone and you've seen on Modern Warfare. It's worked. The crossplay is totally worked.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my friends have been like, "Oh, it's brilliant that we can all play together on Warzone." But then I've been speaking to my friends and be like, "Well, why can't we do it on other games?" And I have to say, "Well,
exactly.
Apparently, they don't want to work together.
Yeah, they don't want to play.
Sony that don't want to play ball. So that's the only issue I have with the next gen consoles. But again, I think for even PC players, if you're like, "Oh, I don't care about consoles," but I think it's good. It's great for all
formats.
Really.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely, because it increases, it moves gaming forward again.
And the interest in that particular game is, I mean, I think consoles help PC games more than the PC community would like to admit to. Do you know what I mean? Because it sort of hypes that interest again. I don't know. What do you think, Chris? What?
So, what can I say about the consoles? First, I'd like to wrap up the life of these 8th generations like the Xbox One, PS4 and all of their Pro stuff. It's true they actually held back everything related to the PCs, because to be honest, they used to have like different architectures for PS3, Xbox 360. They have like Power VR. Basically, they were a completely different engine and architecture for them. Then they switched to like a lower end x86. So it's somehow worse than the...
God, that was an old processor, the x86.
Yeah, they still use x86. Well, what can I say? They actually used Power VR, which is similar to ARM processors they use in like the current smartphones.
Yeah.
But then they decided to like switch to x86, like the 64-bit architecture, so they can have like unified stuff between them. But in the end they had to sacrifice a lot of power related to processors because they made a deal with AMD. And AMD back at the day, they used to give birth to like Jaguar, like Bulldozer, you know, the FX train wrecks. So they basically were absolute garbage. They were bottlenecked because of the CPU, while the GPUs were, you know, kinda alright. Then came in like the mid-console life refresh, the PS4 Pro, Xbox One X, and the reason why they can't push games on those consoles as well is because they still use the outdated processors, which are garbage. So they are still using Jaguar in those, but the GPUs are like RX 580, like let's say RX 5700, you know, the new refreshes. But still, it's all related to the CPUs. Because the CPUs powers everything, like the AI, how many bots will be on the map, the destructions, everything like this is powered by the CPU. So because the CPU is bottlenecked, everything went to shit.
No, that's true. Actually, you're right. That's true. I've got to agree with that.
That's why the PCs have been held back. I've seen multiple cases where like a lot of features from Battlefield 4, such as like flying Titans in Hangar 21, shields with usable pistols, like there was like a prototype for a Pearl Market map from a DLC for Battlefield 4. It used to be 3 times bigger, but they made it smaller because the consoles couldn't handle it. So
yeah.
But I think, do you think that'll change now with the new consoles, the new gens of consoles coming out?
Oh, yeah.
Because I mean, for a console, I think they're uber powerful. And Howard Hopkins, yeah, I know I'm old and I know I'm ugly. So watch the video. Boomers can play games, bitch. But anyway, yeah, I think the new generation of consoles should be able to alienate that, because I think the specs, in all fairness, are really advantageous. But I mean, again, has any of you boys actually seen any gameplay from any of the new consoles? And then maybe after we've talked about that, we can talk about the design, because that's been a bit of a Pandora's box, if anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, like with the new consoles,
yes,
now we're moving on to like PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X.
Yes.
So basically what we can say from straight up, the CPUs were completely upgraded. Now that AMD is working on like Ryzen, we got like Zen 3, Zen 2. Right now it's Zen 2, the next one will be Zen 3. It's still a very capable processor. And from what I heard, they're actually using like a mix of like 4900 HS, which is similar to like the 16 cores, thread CPU. So that's insane power. So for sure, a lot of upgrades like this is going from like a 2008 PC to like a 2020 rig. That's like insane power coming out there.
No, exactly. For a console.
We did see gameplay because the trailer for COD Black Ops Cold War was using PlayStation 5.
Oh, was it? Oh, that's new to me, in all fairness. Yeah.
The official trailer that they released recently, that was using PlayStation 5, and
shit,
it actually did look amazing, to be fair.
That was impressive.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to know that. I wouldn't be like, oh, that's PC. Like, you couldn't tell, because obviously they're new, they've got the power, and it kind of blurs the line between PC and console. So yeah, it did look pretty impressive, and apparently they've got ray tracing as well.
What, as standard?
Yeah, that's going to be standard. So that's pretty cool as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that.
Shit.
Interesting.
Oh, we got Alpha DXD saying, so basically this upgrade between the consoles is like going from a Pentium 4 to like a Core i7. And I think he's saying like Core i7 modern times. You are too there, mate. That is for sure a high jump for the consoles, especially with the ray tracing. Since this was like an exclusive feature for the Nvidia stuff, but now we get to the point of AMD actually having it, and it should be at a lower price than what Nvidia shares, like spews out. So it's coming in the next topic.
Well, I personally think that the jump from this gen console to the next gen console is the biggest it's ever been. I mean, I think the jump is massive this time.
Yeah.
I don't know what your feelings are on that. I just think that this time it's a massive, massive jump.
Mm-hmm.
And what?
I'd agree with that.
So what about what? I mean, we've seen sort of prices knocking about. What are your thoughts on how much? Forget about what you've seen. Well, how much do you think that sort of technology? Because I mean, obviously, Xbox does certain things. The new Xbox apparently does certain things better than the PlayStation 5, and the PlayStation 5 does things better than the Xbox X Series. What sort of price would you use to personally put on that sort of technology? I mean, be truthful and don't look at prices that maybe you've seen knocking about. Give your personal sort of ideas of what you think that sort of technology is worth.
Yeah. Do you want me to go first? And then
go on, mate. Yeah.
I mean, the prices that we're knocking about was like in sort of like the £500 range or a little bit lower, but I'd probably say I think for me I'd say probably like £400 or something.
Okay.
Because I do think the value is amazing for consoles in terms of what you're actually getting. I mean, that's why so many people go for consoles over PC, because obviously you just spend that money and you get it up front and you don't have to worry about anything. So I think the value that they're giving you, I mean, ray tracing, they're talking about higher refresh rate, which has always been a thing that is kind of
for consoles.
Because I've been like, well, okay, we don't really care about 4K 30 FPS. Like, who cares? I want more frame rate. Like, I'm not bothered about just having really high resolutions. I want to see better frame rate. So when they were talking about higher refresh rates, I think that was a big jump for consoles. But I think you're getting higher fidelity. Obviously, they're talking about higher refresh rates, all the sort of functionality that you get with consoles as well. Obviously, talking to your friends, a lot of your friends will be using consoles as well. So I think overall, for like £400, I think that would be a decent price for a console. I think for both consoles, like you said, they've got obviously things that are better on PlayStation 5 and then things that are better
and vice versa, yeah.
And vice versa, yeah. So I think for me, I'd say about £400 would be respectable for that sort of pricing.
And Chris, what do you think? What do you honestly think that technology's worth?
So let's say first up, I'm going to divide the parts because apparently they are going to have like different consoles. So for PlayStation 5, they got like the discless one.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the digital owner. Yeah.
For Xbox, it's only Xbox Series X, which is now confirmed. They have like all of the specs. And there's also Series S. So it's basically like Xbox One S. The simple one, just cut down a bit. For PlayStation, 400 quid, just like you said, it's a good idea for the discless one. For the disc one, it should be 450. You know, not a big of a difference. If it's going to be huge, people will buy the digital one. That's for sure. That's what I think about PlayStation. Since it's weaker, it should be priced lower. Because it's the fact that it's weaker compared to like Xbox Series X. Mm-hmm. For Xbox Series X, I'm still thinking, I think it should be 450 as well. Because they're trying to push like this sort of, like you purchase this product and it's like a live service. So basically you pay like a subscription and you get everything from Xbox. So you got like the original titles from like the original Xbox all the way to the Series X. So this is like, we even got like those, how do you say, Game Pass, where you can access the games via a subscription. They're basically selling only a platform, not like the box itself. That doesn't matter anymore, it's just them pushing their platform for the people. And the entrance for like the high end should be 450, 500. I know 500 is a bit pushing, but it should be around 450, 400. For the Series S, I'm honestly thinking they're pushing like 300, maybe 250 for it. Because like it's 1440p, it's a countdown version, but it still will run new titles. So if it's going to be like £250, how you say it, that thing is going to demolish like PlayStation. Because why should you waste 400 quid on like a PlayStation when you can get like one for 250 from Xbox and have all of the games? Well, minus the exclusives, of course. So there are a lot of thoughts and rumors about the pricing, but I think around like 400 for 500, that's my guess for those.
Well, I think personally, they'll probably price it higher than that. But I think it's more about the software and the games that they can make money on through the hardware itself. I think they could possibly sell the consoles at a loss. I'm thinking about the same sort of price, between £400-500. Maybe it's a bit lower for the digital and the S version. But I think if you were savvy enough and you have enough money like Microsoft and Sony do, I would personally sell the consoles a lot cheaper because they will make the money back on the software. But having said that, I think personally the tech, I think it was worked out at something like between $450 and $550 that the actual tech inside the machines were worth. But I think a sort of price range we're going to see is about $499. I think we're going to see that for both the consoles. But I do honestly think they could sell it for cheaper because they will make the money back on the games. I honestly believe they'll make the money back on the games.
We're talking about the subscription model, isn't it? So
well, exactly. And I mean, Microsoft are pushing their subscription of what's I forget. There's Game Pass, yeah. And apparently it's decent. I don't subscribe to it, and I do have an Xbox. But apparently a few of my friends subscribe to that. And apparently it's well worth the money. But for the tech itself, I think even though maybe it's $500 sounds an awful lot of money, I think you're getting a right deal there for the tech that's inside those machines. But anyway, let's I'm going to go back to you, Ben. Let's talk about the designs. What do you think about the designs on the two consoles, the Xbox X Series and the PlayStation? I mean, I might be the odd one out here, but I'll let you go first, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, I've seen memes of it. Like, I've seen what people are saying. They're comparing it to Xbox looking like a fridge and all those kind of things. But I mean, it is what it is. Like, I don't really care about design at the end of the day as long as it works. But I think Xbox Series X, for me, like it looks slick. It looks decent. I'm okay with how it looks. I think it looks appealing. Like I'd want that as something like to have in my house, like to say, yeah, I've got this Xbox Series X. I think the PlayStation 5 looks good as well. I don't think there's kind of anything wrong with that. I think the controller as well, it looks quite nice. I think it looks decent. I think they both do the job. They both look good. But for me as a player, and I think most people as well, it's all about what's inside and what it actually does. So I think, yeah, they look modern, they look slick, and I think you'd want something like both of those consoles in your house. So
you're quite happy with the design on both of them? Cool.
Both of them, I think they're cool.
Cool. Chris, what about you, mate? Designs, Xbox X Series and PlayStation 5. What are your thoughts on how they actually look?
So, from what I can tell, PlayStation is pushing for like a futuristic design. They like want to scream like this is the next generation. So look at our product. It's eye-catching. When you look at it, it's like a tower, which you can honestly spot from like miles away because it's so unique. You just look at it and it's like, what is this? Is this supposed to be a ship, or is this supposed to be like a 3D model they took from a game or something? I know this is its own style. So PlayStation 5 is screaming for the futurism. Xbox Series X, like it just says, alright, we have this mini ITX tower. You clearly can tell this thing is a PC. So you just buy it and you use it to play games. That's what I see. PlayStation screams futurism. They want to say like, look, this is the future. Meanwhile, the Xbox is saying, right, dude, we got a box. You install it to play it. That's it.
Well, it does the job, doesn't it? I think it looks okay for what it is.
Right.
It's not trying to be pretentious. I think PlayStation 5, yeah, like you said, Chris, about it looking modern and saying, yeah, this is the future right here. Whereas I think Xbox is kind of like, yeah, I've just looked normal. I'm not trying to be pretentious, but the hardware that's in it is pretty good. So I think, yeah, they both have their pros and cons, really, but I think both look good, really.
Well, my personal opinion, I really, really like the look of the Xbox. I mean, to me, maybe it's a male thing. It looks severe, it looks sharp, it looks like something that's not intrusive. And this is where I think I'll be slightly controversial for you guys. I think the PS5 looks ugly as shit. I don't like it. Maybe I'm not ready for it yet. Maybe it is too much for me. But I just don't like it. I've seen better design fucking skyscrapers. But I'm not hating on it, because the bottom line is, like you boys said, it's all to do what's inside. It's all to do how they play. But I mean, I think you've got to have a specific sort of room or surrounding or area that you could put that PlayStation 5 into, but I think you can just hide the Xbox X Series away somewhere. You'll get used to it just being their grey box. It's not intrusive, and I just find the PlayStation 5 design a bit intrusive. Lovely tech inside, but it's just for me, it's not for me. And just Harem, I do apologise if I don't know what's going on with my internet. I can see it myself actually stopping and starting. I actually don't know. The internet, if I can just say, My internet has just been turned on. Apparently, for 10 days, it's going to be a bit wonky. For that, I do apologise.
Yeah, they're taking a shot at you.
Yeah. I just seen it. While you were talking, Chris. But for the first 10 days, apparently the line's monitored and it's doing this and it's doing that. There's nothing I can do about that. But Howard Hopkins has actually put a decent comment on there. If the new consoles are better, why aren't they more expensive than the older ones? My answer to that is I don't think they dare make them more expensive than the older ones, because I mean, if you go more expensive than that, people will drift into the lower end of the PC market, and I honestly don't think they can make them more expensive, Howard. And to be honest, it is better tech, but tech is now a lot cheaper than it was 4 or 5 years ago. Even memories come down, and we know that was the thing that everyone had problems with a couple of years ago, or graphic cards because of the data mining, all that sort of calmed down a wee bit, and tech's a lot cheaper now, Howard. So I think that's why we're sort of all giving about the same sort of figures, about the same price of what the old consoles were. That's pretty much for me. Consoles, I don't know. You guys want to say anything more? What about the controllers? Actually, because I think the PlayStation 5 controller looks awesome.
We have a comment from Alpha. He's saying like, consoles want to be the bang for the buck. Selling it for $700 means buying a PC with paid services. That is true, because you have to pay for the online.
Exactly.
And for the games a lot,
and that was my argument about they can sell it cheaper because they'll make the money back on the software. Software also including paid for services, having to pay to be online to play games. They make an awful lot of money via that, Chris. Do you not think?
Yeah, they are making a lot of it. Imagine, like, you have about 1 million players online, and for example, you have like the subscription fee. So we take like $15 multiplied by 1 million, 15 million
per year.
$15 million from people.
Howard, sorry boys, just going to answer Howard again. Obviously he's watching, he's obviously takes a piss out of me, but he does come and watch the streams, and he obviously subscribes to you boys. Well, they're playing a PC and console. It's which, Howard, not winch. Do I like better? Do you know what? There's a place for both. The reason I swapped over to PC because there's more choice, and it's as simple as that. Sandstorm being one of the obvious reasons, because if anyone's watching out there from NWI, I love the game. It's you I have a problem with. But sometimes console has its places. Console downstairs, Jack's son plays on it. Forrest Felix, he plays on the console a lot. And sometimes, you know what, I'll pick up a controller when I can't be bothered setting up the PC, and just pick up a controller, switch the TV on, and have a game. I don't think there's any comparison, in all fairness. I can do an awful lot more on the PC. I can play an awful lot more. A lot more things are developed for the PC, and I have that luxury of being able to play on the PC and the Xbox as well. So it's a hard one for me. There's nothing that which I think is better. But if I had to go with that, I would say the PC. I appreciate that. Howard's just said he likes listening to us, boys. Cheers for that, Howard.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah, cheers, Howard.
But should we move on to physical hardware? Because I think this will be Chris's forte. should we talk? I mean, one of the biggest things or one of the most expensive things we will buy for being a PC player, or PC players, the three of us, one of the most expensive things we will buy is a graphic card. Graphic card and the CPU is probably the two most expensive things you will buy for a PC gaming. Do you boys think it's gone too far? Do you think it's too expensive? Do you think that you need what they're pushing out at the moment? Is it just a vain thing that you've got to have the best things that's coming out? And I think we should talk about how far it's come over the years. But we're on about the 3 Series AMD GPUs, and I think it's going mad, in all fairness.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It really has. Like the pricing I've seen for Nvidia is just absolutely...
It's madness, isn't it?
Top-end graphics card.
Over £1,000.
Over £1,000 for a fucking graphics card. It's ridiculous. Nobody can afford that shit. It's like, it's pushing the medium earners, like people who were like PC gaming, like most people who are only getting like, you know, normal incomes. How can you ask
justify
customer? How can you justify making them spend like $1,400 or something for the top end graphics card?
I know.
Nobody can afford that. And even though like people can afford it, but why they can't even justify that to themselves to go, yeah, I'm going to go spend that much money on one component.
Exactly. And I don't know how, like you said, how do they justify it? Is it just... Is it possibly just the research that they have to do to get... And I think because they're competing against each other, I think that's where the money is coming into it. They're so intense in competing with each other that they are spending so much money in research and development that now the consumer, us three... I've got to pay for this. What do you think, Chris?
So I'm going to say this straight. So paying about $1,000 to $2,000 for a GPU is just insane. How the hell can you waste millions? For us, it's like millions of my currency just to build a PC, when with $2,000 you can get yourself like a Ryzen 9 3950X rig. That's a beefy ass CPU which you can render a lot of footage on it. Why is a GPU so fucking expensive? That's why I'm rooting for AMD on the GPU side.
So am I.
Nvidia right now is dominating, and it's like gouging people. So I got some comments from Alpha saying like $2,000 for a GPU that has barely working ray tracing on launch. That's pinnacle of greed. I can agree, because Nvidia is right now on the top, so it's just, you know, like Intel, gouging people.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, AMD is working its hard ass just to have like at least a competitor for the 2080 Ti. And I'm cheering for them with the RDNA 2, because RDNA 2 is like the GPU they are using in the consoles, and it's the same power as about 2080 Ti. So if there really is a competitor that will destroy like Nvidia, if it's cheaper and it's overall has the same power, Nvidia will just be destroyed this generation.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I hope so. I agree, because at the moment Nvidia are just like, yeah, we're the best and we can charge whatever we want.
And they're taking the piss.
They're taking the piss, because they're thinking AMD are miles behind. It's fine. We can keep charging them over $1,000 or whatever for a graphics card.
But if you think Intel made that mistake as well, and now Ryzen processors, yes, exactly, exactly.
So I hope that happens to Nvidia. I'm really hoping it does, and I hope that AMD can pull the bag out.
Because it's only the consumer that's suffering, to be honest. And I'm the same as you boys, and it's really weird because I'm a massive AMD fan. I've always bought AMD CPUs, but I have to admit I've never bought an AMD GPU.
Yeah,
it's weird because I would love to, and I should do, and I'm just hoping that, and I think it will happen, that their technology will overtake, like they did, or are trying to do, or are doing at the moment with the CPU market. I think they will possibly do that with the GPU market. And I'm like Chris, I'm like you, I am rooting for them 100% at the moment.
Yeah. Be brilliant. Yeah, we love a bit of competition. I think whenever there's no competition, that's when it goes stale, doesn't it? You don't see as much
and we don't benefit.
Yeah, we don't benefit as consumers. So we, as consumers, whether you love Nvidia or you love AMD, you should be rooting for competition, because at the end of the day, if there's no competition, you're not going to see. Because
it's always better for the consumer, us boys out there.
Yeah, definitely.
And the problem is right now, as we are speaking, like the 3090, I don't know which one is coming next. It's either 3090, it's 3080 Ti, 3000 series Titan, I don't know. They started doing bullshit by introducing their own custom 12-pin connectors. Now it's beefy as hell, so basically it's like a 2080.
Going down the Apple route.
Yeah, just expanding it. And making, basically they're pushing like the 2080 Ti to the limits, so they can have like, from what I heard, it's only 20% power boost, so it's nothing surprising there, to be honest. Because just like last time, 1080 Ti, then was like 2080 Ti, and 2080 Ti what that did, it just introduced like ray tracing and 20% power. It should be the same for the next one. Meanwhile, AMD is working its best. So they introduced like DirectX 12 support. With the current series, I think it is RX 5700 series. And with the next one, they're introducing ray tracing. So they're pushing like as hard as possible just so they can compete with Nvidia.
And I'm rooting for them. I am literally rooting for AMD to take over.
I'm also rooting for them because they have like the 2070 Super. It's like at about $750, and that's in my country. So it's $750 for the 2070 Super. Meanwhile, you have a more powerful RX 5700 XT. It costs $600. The only difference is that it's AMD, and it's a lot more powerful. But people still go for Nvidia because it's Nvidia. They're the top dog. They get everything. So it's honestly a shame that AMD right now is the underdog.
Yeah, but they were always that in the CP market, Chris. They were always the underdog, but now they're not. Now I would pick a Ryzen, honestly. And sorry, Ben, I know you're an Intel guy,
I am an Intel guy, but
I would pick a Ryzen all day long, honestly, because I remember we had a conversation, did we not, Ben? And we were rendering something. It was like we both did a 4-minute video or something, and literally I'm like, Ben thought I was lying. I had to screen post it, and Ben thought I was lying. I'm like, mine's finished, and he's like, Devlin, you're a lying bleep. And I'm like, no, honestly, Ben, it's done. I mean, all right, at this moment in time, for gaming, for playing games, Intel is the best. It is only the best, but
I think only slightly though.
But multitasking and things like rendering and video editing, I think Ryzen knocks them out of the water.
I'd probably agree with that. I do agree. I hate to say it, but I do agree. But I just like Intel though, even though I shouldn't, because it's not good for the consumer really. Because I like, okay.
Do you think you've been conditioned, Ben? Do you think as a young man you've been conditioned that you're supposed to have Intel?
Because I think it's like, oh, Intel. It's kind of like Apple as well, where they're
fuck Apple.
They make it. I know, but they kind of like
fuck Apple.
It seem like it's luxurious, like, oh, you should have Intel or you should have Apple because it's the best or whatever. But I don't know. It's one of them. I feel like I'm automatic. Like, yeah, Intel's better. But even though it's kind of, you forget how much AMD is catching up Intel. You do forget how much they have made advancements now.
In all fairness, Ben, I'm like that with my GPUs. I go, oh, you've got to have Nvidia. You've got to. And I shouldn't be thinking like that. I should actually be thinking, right, let's go
have a look.
let's go AMD. Let's do that. But I just don't, and I think it's because I've been conditioned.
I was just going to say, don't you
always
feel
a
like you're
condition.
conditioned to get
Yeah.
Nvidia?
Yeah.
Don't you feel like oh, I need to get Nvidia because that's the best? But
Yeah.
even though you haven't really looked into it, I'm the same.
No, and being an AMD fan, I can't understand myself. I'm probably being hypocritical that I should be supporting AMD, but I'm thinking, no. If I want to play these games, I've got to get Nvidia. Yeah.
It's strange, isn't it? Really strange.
Yeah, Howard, PCs, and they don't get dated really quickly. Again, what I've just been saying to Ben there, you are conditioned to thinking your PC is outdated. I'm still on a 1070, believe it or not, and my games run perfectly fine. And that's like, how old's a 1070 now? About 4 years old?
4 years.
So
It's quite old.
it's really old, but my PC runs fine. My games run fine. And I will upgrade, but I upgrade to stupid things like microphones and fucking monitors and keyboard and mice. And it's weird because I never complain about that. Knock out 100 odd quid for a fucking keyboard and £100 for a mouse, and don't tell Jack, £500 for a microphone. I think it's all that conditioning, but the myth is that a PC's probably is when you buy a PC or you put a PC together, it is instantly out of date. But it's not, because you can still play games perfectly fine on the hardware that I've got. I mean, the only thing that's outdated, I think, on my machine, well, two things that's outdated on my machine, only because I'm vain about my system, is my graphic card and my CPU. But having said that, if I buy or I build another system, which the boys know I'm going to do, I will keep everything else, and I will just update my system, and maybe I'll keep the graphic card and just use that for a rendering machine. So you're not actually losing money, and it's not going out of date because you can utilize it in a different way, in all fairness. So the myth, so the myth that you think you when you buy a PC you've got to constantly upgrade it, you don't have to. Sorry, Ben, go on. I didn't mean to.
I was just going to say, I think that's a good point you raise about that, because I think that's what puts console players off from turning over to PC, because they're like, well, you just get a console and it's fine for, whatever, how many years, like 8 years or whatever. And they think when you buy a PC, it's instantly out of date and it can't run any games. But I think the actual fact of it, like you said, you can actually turn it into something else. Maybe you just use it for rendering, or you might just browse on that PC. And it, I think most PCs, like a GTX 1070, that'll probably be fine for another year or whatever. Or
of course, and it will eventually go out of date. But what I'll do, I'll just have a skeleton. I'll have a motherboard at the side there, tiny bit of memory, maybe 16 gig of memory. I'll have a little hard drive. It'll be a skeleton. It'll be a motherboard over there with the 1070 and just rendering my shit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So, obviously, you've got to be slightly tech savvy to do that. The man on the street probably will think, like, they'll see a motherboard lying there on whatever, and it's just like a skeleton. But I would then turn that into a rendering piece of shit on the side. Do you know what I mean? In theory, it does go out of date. It's like buying a new car. People say, as soon as you buy a new car, you lose money on it, which you do. But for argument's sake, say you buy another car brand new, you can use that car just as you run about and use that car as your posh fucking driving about car. I don't know. Maybe that's a bit basic. What I'm saying is, but you can. I mean, PC gaming, don't get me wrong, is expensive. It is expensive. And that's why me, Chris and Ben support the console market, because they have a place. And their place, a lot of the time, is supporting the PC players. A lot of PC players don't see that. But we actually see that, and that's where you get this PC elite shit.
I was going to say.
Go on, Ben.
I was going to say. I mean, that's what annoys me. I wish we could all just say, yeah, you play on the console, fair enough. For whatever reason you've decided to go on the console, that's fair enough. But what I'm seeing a lot of, and I still see it now because I thought it had kind of gone away, but I still see it in like Twitter and stuff, and on YouTube comments that people will be like. A console guy will say, I want this game to come to consoles, and the PC guy will pop up and say, oh no, just shut up, just go and buy a PC, it's easy as that, whatever. And the console guy will be like, well, I don't really want to buy a PC, like I want to play on my console, that's why I bought a console. And I just don't like that sort of elitist thing, because I play on PC, I used to play on console, but I understand why people either stick on the PC or they stick on console. And I just don't think...
That's their choice at the end of the day.
Choice. If they want to go on the console, it's fine, but it's that sort of thing, oh, you're a peasant because you're playing console. It's like, if they want to play on console, just let them play on console. If they want to see the PC games come to their platform as well. What's the harm in that?
If you want to be a dickhead like us three and spend absolute fortunes on PC hardware, well, fucking do it. Because them guys on the console can play that game. There's no hackers. There's no issue. All right, it might be downgraded. You might say, frame per second and all that. Whoopie fucking do. At the end of the day, people have a choice to play it as they want. We play it because we do want better frame rate. We do want more options to play games, but that doesn't mean that we're elite in any way. In effect, we're probably a bunch of arseholes thinking that we are better, or do you know what I mean? Or people are saying they're better. You're just fucking making yourself look idiots. In all fairness,
it does look stupid. Yeah, when
of course it does.
Do see it, I'm just like, well, what is the point? How is that helping anything? Just you saying, oh, you're a peasant, I'm an elitist because I spent more money. Okay, yeah, you spent more money, and I suppose you got better graphics or you get a higher frame rate or whatever, but that doesn't mean that as a console player you can't ask for certain games or want to play those games just because you're on another platform. I just don't think it's not helpful.
What's that saying, Ben? Fur coat and no knickers.
Yeah.
Have you heard that saying?
I have heard of that. I have heard of it.
And I'll explain myself there because these people, for argument's sake, you'll get this guy on the street that'll have a brand new car every year and he say, oh, I've got a brand new car. What he won't tell you is that he's leased that car.
Yeah.
And every year, every like couple of years, you can release a car, but that person never owns that. And I think that, these people who buy a console, they've got that console, they own it, they can play the game. Exactly. They're not exactly. And PC no knickers is. You'll get some bitch who wears a fur coat. PC and no knickers. Fur coat and no knickers. You'll get this posh girl that wears a fur coat because she spent all her money on the fur coat and she can't afford anything underneath.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what it is.
That's a good.
I mean, it is actually a saying that, Ben, that fur coat and no knickers, that they'll spend all the money on something they want, but they can't afford to eat and shit like that. A lot of the PC players are like that. Apart from you get people that are sponsored or the massive YouTubers, they can afford that. The man on the street, and that's the sort of where my channel comes into. I don't know about yours and Chris's, but that's where my channel comes into. The normal people, the man on the street, cannot afford that. So,
but that brings us back round to the pricing of the RTX cards. Like, is the normal average man on the street going to be able to afford the top end cards? No, exactly. So, are they outpricing it? Do they actually understand the people who are trying to buy these cards, who are interested in this card? Like I feel like they sometimes, or maybe it's just they don't care, but I feel like they're just out of touch with reality.
Because I think Chris knocked on this before, because people think they have to have this card. They have to have that specific graphic card. are conditioned to the fact that they need to have this, so they can say, right, we can charge them basically what we want.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think, Chris. So do you feel that this is to Chris, do you feel that you are not pressured as such, but you think you have to have a certain GPU to be the sort of norm to have in your PC?
To be honest, you are right, because I only got one choice. If AMD doesn't deliver power like RTX, for example, 2080 Ti, then I'll have to go with the 4090, because right now my rig is pushed beyond the limits, because I recently upgraded my CPU to like a 4900X, and the 2070 all is being destroyed by the resolution. The rendering output, it's absolutely horrible. So if I ever have a choice between AMD and Nvidia, if AMD delivers something like better than what I've seen with 5700X, 5700 XT, I'm sorry, I don't know how to call those cards. If they deliver something in the levels of 3080, I'm going with AMD. If it's sadly Nvidia, I'm going to be forced to get Nvidia to get actual performance for my rig. That's how it goes.
Well, I mean, you're actually going to go with something that's going to be better for you. You're going to get the better performance. And it's just unfortunate at this moment in time. Maybe it's not unfortunate. Maybe it's I'll never change to AMD when it comes to GPU. But at this moment in time, you know, I've got to say NVIDIA is the market leader at the moment.
That's the truth.
Definitely.
So I think maybe let's have a look, because Chris did he did a list of things that we possibly let's talk about CPU. Right, okay, before we go away, I want to ask this question because you boys know what I'm going to say. What was the first high-end graphic card GPU that you boys first bought? We'll go Ben first.
Oh, okay, the first one I brought. Well, when you were saying about AMD, like you said that you'd never brought an AMD. I actually did have one AMD because I was thinking about it. I had the RX 480.
Apparently, that was a decent card.
It was a decent card, and it was actually really well priced, and it was good. It only had one fan.
Did you buy that, or did it come in a pre-build?
It came in a pre-built.
I knew it. Because people who buy PCs will, like Slavic, you'll always initially go with a pre-build. I was just fortunate enough I had shops.
I didn't understand it. Yeah. I didn't fully understand PC because I came from console. So what I did, because I didn't understand, I do understand it more.
Of course.
Knowing everything. But, when I got the pre-build, I just thought, you know, it's easy, and it came in with the RX 480. I didn't really fully understand it, but when I played on it, I've got to say, like, it's
good experience.
Yeah, good experience, and I think they did compare it to the GTX 1070 as well. They were saying it's just a little bit slower, but for what I was paying, I was like, well, the GTX 1070 was probably like $100.
Mad money, yeah.
Which I was like, okay, I'm getting slightly less frames per second, but for my first initial coming into PC game, I was like, this is decent, you know, it's cheap, it's all right. And AMD for me has always been like that economic sort of
let's get it straight, the cheaper option.
Yeah, exactly. So I was pleasantly surprised with.
So your first high-end card as such was an AMD.
Yeah.
Fucking banging, mate. Chris, yours, mate. What was your first sort of high-end card?
I'm sorry to disappoint. It was a GTX 970.
Woohoo!
A GTX 970, and the thing is, it came with a catch. So it stated it got like 4 gigabytes of VRAM. It apparently had 3.5 high speed and 500 megabytes low speed.
What the fuck? How does that work?
So if you use like its actual capacity is 3.5, really fast, like normal one. If you used 4 gigabytes, it was really slow, so FPS would just fall beyond 30 to even 2010. That's how it goes for it. So yeah, NVIDIA was my first ever high-end upgrade for the CPU.
And there's nothing wrong with that, to be honest. My the boys know what I'm going to say here. My first high-end card is when I had my shops. My first high-end card, believe it or not, was a card called a Voodoo. And NVIDIA actually bought Voodoo out, and I remember getting this card. I remember using whatever at the time was in my PC, and I got this Voodoo card, and it was like, honestly, I had a semi on when I got this thing. I pulled it out of the box, and it literally, now looking at it, was a piece of shit. But you know what? It didn't change my life, but it changed my gaming life when I was playing. It was absolutely awesome. If you don't know what a Voodoo card is, Google it. It was the bollocks. And you know what NVIDIA did? They bought them out and they dropped them. And it was amazing experience when I got this Voodoo card. It was absolutely massive when I got this. It was like from being Minecraft sort of graphics to Battlefield Modern Warfare graphics. It was an absolute night and day. So for me, it was the Voodoo card. Mm-hmm. So, go on. Sorry, Ben.
I also got some comments, feedback. So I'm going to list them right now. So first one is from Alpha DXD. He said, my high-end card was like a GTX 660.
Wow.
So, yep. Apparently some people only have like... Also, I got Harem King said, mine is still the 950.
950M. Yeah.
And Master Raider said, my highest GPU is RTX 2060. And also, Harem King said, 3DFX, no wonder Devlin is a boomer.
Fuck you.
That's a proper insult.
God, I hate your subs. No, I don't. Obviously, I don't. No, I don't. I don't.
I love that reply, though.
They actually know that I've got thick shoulders. I love all you Chris's subs, blah, 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 blah. But 3DFX, yeah, that was mate, that was a bollocks in the day. That was more than the bollocks. That was high end. I was on your 3080s at that time.
Oh, yeah.
No one had that sort of tech. It's only because I put it on the shop's expenses that I got it. But it had like something like 1 meg memory on the fucking thing, but it was like it literally was night and day. Yeah,
I think how much we changed.
No, exactly, and how sort of selfish I think we've got, and the companies have got with charging us the prices that they do. I just went into my YouTube voice and the prices that we do.
I thought you were doing that as a joke.
No, I wasn't actually. I just wandered into it. So should we talk CPUs? I don't know if we're going into sort of grey market here because I am a boomer. I know like CPUs, Citrix. Do anyone remember Citrix processors? Citrix? Because there was a war. There was actually a war. There was, I don't know. Should we talk about processors? I don't know.
Go for it. Go for it if you want.
So, there was always Intel. There was a company called Citrix. I don't know. And there was AMD.
Cyrix,
yeah, Cyrix, yeah, Cyrix. I used to call them Cyrix. And I was before AMD. I was at, and the shit, by the way, I was a big Cyrix fan. I think the thing, because I own the shops, Cyrix were really, really cheap, but their technology at the time was massive. And they fell by the wayside to AMD and Intel. So probably my first question would be is when was your first experiences of CPUs being sort of relevant to what you're doing? Because obviously now you're thinking about the i9s and the Ryzen 9. When was the first sort of time you thought, oh right, okay, I need to think about CPUs?
Who wants to go first?
I'll let anyone in. It's entirely up to you.
Alright, start you, Ben, because I have my stuff up here.
All right, okay.
I'll go first. I'll go first then. Okay, so what we were talking about with the pre-build, because when I got a pre,
It didn't come with the Cyrix, did it? No, they would have been gone before that.
I think they must have gone long gone.
I think AMD actually bought them, if I'm wrong. I'm sure Hardem will check that out. Cyrix Hardem.
Yeah, check it.
Check it out. I think AMD actually bought them out. I'm probably wrong,
That'd be interesting.
because I'm a boomer and...
No, they did. I just had a look because it said assets sold to advanced micro devices.
Yeah, AMD.
There
Yeah.
you go. There you go.
Harem King said, here goes the story of the CPUs by Boomer Devlin.
Hardem, you're my bitch, by the way.
Yeah. So, the RX 480 came with.
Actually, Alfie, you spelt that right. Sorry, Ben.
Oh yeah. It came with an i7 4770. So it was a decent CPU, but I didn't really understand about CPUs because this was about the time I switched. So I just looked at that and it looked like a decent CPU. It did the job, but I only sort of got into CPUs recently where I was on my Discord and people were talking about AMD. They were going, oh, but the AMD's better. And people were talking about saying, oh, no, Intel's better because we've got like two people who are interested in tech and one of them likes AMD and the other one likes Intel. And I just sort of went, okay, well, I had Intel last time. It was decent, so I'll go with Intel again. And that's when I thought, okay, I'm going to go big. I'm going to go i9.
Yeah, you did, Alpha.
Okay. And yeah, it was good. But I've never been a massive fan of CPUs. It's always been about GPUs, so I wasn't massively
See, probably this is where us gamers go wrong.
Maybe.
Well, all we do is
It's all about the
think
GPU,
about GPUs, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe that's where we go wrong. But then I always think, well, I feel like maybe I've been conditioned, but I just feel like GPU gives you the most performance over the CPU. So I just think I'll get a decent CPU, and then the GPU I'll just try.
I think again, Ben, though, that's how it depends on how the game's designed, in all fairness. Sometimes it's GPU heavy and sometimes it's CPU heavy. And sometimes, because you've seen sometimes people say, oh, change this to the CPU or change that to the GPU. Because in my day, it was just like you put a decent GPU in the game and your gameplay is fucking great. But I think the way everything's going at the moment, it's all dependent on the developer, to be honest.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and it's like if you have open world games, it's probably more dependent on the CPU. So it does vary between game to game. So you got to think about that as well.
So what about you, Chris?
So for me personally, it started out basically shortly said. I had a gaming rig built for myself, although I wanted to create it, of course, by yours truly. My parents actually wrote to someone, so hey dude, our folk wants to play a game and all that stuff. It was fine, so it had like Core i5 2310.
God.
It's a really low-end i5 Skylake.
No, it's decent. I'm sorry, I'm saying God because the i5 was your first one. I'm like, fucking hell.
It's actually wasn't my first one, because I had like an even older rig running on like a Celeron paired with, I think it was
Celeron.
Shit. There's another name, Celerons.
Yeah.
Celeron with like an AMD GPU, but I honestly don't remember anything from that rig because it was sold to get my gaming one.
Shit.
So I got my gaming one. It was like a i5 2310 and got a GTX 550 Ti, I think, and 8 gigs of RAM. So I was like, oh hell, this thing is actually pretty powerful. Now I can play some games, at decent resolutions. Then it struck my head when I started producing content for Gaming Zone that, oh shit, I'm gonna render videos that are like about 20 minutes, like 10 hours straight. So I need to get myself a pretty decent upgrade. That's when I bought myself an i7 4790. I wanted to get the K version, but that dumbass mistook the order and wrote 4790 instead of the Devil's Canyon version. So I ended up with a locked processor, but still that was like a serious increase because the render times fall like I think 3 to 4 times. So that was really amazing back in the days for me.
Shit. I just want to address Howard Hopkins. In your day, you had to light your house with oil lamps. Fuck you, Hopkins, you prick. I just want to say, the first time I got a wage packet, Robin Hood nicked it, so fuck you, Hopkins. And your wife is still a better gamer than you. But anyway... So, I remember the Citrix. I can't personally say what my first CPU was because I owned the shop, so I had PCs all over the place. I had about 3 or 4 at home, but like normal Pentiums, Pentium 1, AMD processors, Citrix or Cyrix. But I think it's moved on an awful lot. Even in the last 10 years, there's been a massive jump in the PC market, and I think that's more to do with gamers. I know we get a lot of shit.
Demand more, don't we?
I think so, yeah. But I mean, maybe that's why the prices are so high. I have no idea. But I think not PC users, but gamers in general are penalised by peripheral companies. Do you know what I mean? I think because they think that, right, okay, we'll create a demand and they will adhere to that demand. Yeah. But I honestly have no idea why they can justify why they can charge them prices for GPUs. So maybe we should go on to maybe hard drives, and I think this is probably an easier subject to discuss because I think hard drives have moved on a lot faster than GPUs, to be honest, because we've got the SSDs. They are significantly faster, but the prices are more better for the consumer.
Yeah, and there's obviously loads of different SSDs as well. You can get your standard SSDs, which look more of like a box type sort of SSD, and then you've got obviously the M2.
I've got fucking shitloads of the things.
Oh yeah, they're like were they like the initial SSD, and then obviously.
There's difference. The M2s are a lot faster, obviously, but these things, I've got fucking a house full of these things. What have I got in my hand at the moment? An Evo 860 250 gig. I could throw that away. Another one. No, what the fuck is that?
Also, well, on the theme of SSDs.
But anyway, go on.
I wanted to talk about the Intel versus AMD situation with the CPUs, because we didn't touch this. PCIe 4.0. Intel doesn't have this kind of stuff. And if RTX 3090 and the next one AMD is going to be bottlenecked by the PCIe 3.0, how is Intel going to respond to AMD's 4.0?
Or can they respond, Chris? Is that the question? Can they respond?
Yes, can they respond? Because they're still stuck, like some of the folks in the comments said, they are still stuck to the Skylake 14 nanometers from 2014-2015. That's really bad. So what do you think? How they will reply towards these hostile threats?
Well, there's the question. In all fairness, sorry, Chris, I was just looking at your thread. Celeron is the same for Intel. Well, Celeron was Intel, but a fact that I'm not sure everyone knows about Celerons. See the cash machines you all go to? Celerons probably are in that machine, or the cash machines, and what's that company? I'm trying to think of that company. HP. What was that other subsidiary of HP?
Because Harem King said he actually said AMD Sempron. So
Sempons. I remember Sempons.
Yeah. So he said like
like a tampon.
So yes, Sempron. So Alpha said, "What the hell is a Sempron?" And Harem King said, "AMD
one core trash." I mean, but in his day, the Sempron was a decent processor for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Compact. That's what I was thinking of. See when I was saying what's the HP lower subsidiary, it was Compact. See, the Celerons and Compacts probably run every cash machine that you ever will go to. Do you go to cash machines, Chris? I'm being probably really ignorant here.
Cash machines, is that ATMs?
ATMs, yes, ATMs. They've probably got a Celeron in them, and they've probably got a Compact machine inside them.
It has like a Windows 98, Windows XP interface, so it's like really simplified from the 90s. You can clearly tell. So I think they're probably running on Celerons and stuff. So, I got a comment from Harem King. He said,
"Bruh."
Intel Atom. Intel Atom, man. Oh, I actually remember a netbook I used with Intel Atom.
I used to be in it, yeah.
Holy fuck! It's wow! It's worse than current smartphones. I'm not kidding. That's even below, I think.
It's quite amazing, really, how technology has moved on. I mean, we're sat here now talking. We're having a podcast. Obviously, Chris is in Moldova. I'm here out of fucking Scotland and all that, and Ben is in the Midlands, and we're all talking together and we're having this conversation. It's amazing how I know, obviously, you're going to call me a boomer, Harem and Alpha, but at the end of the day, you would have never done this 20 years ago. You could never have sat here and done something like this. Do you know what I mean? It's complete, exactly, and everything has completely changed. And you'd never,
on, isn't it? Really fast.
Exactly, and you'd never get young lads like yourselves talking to an old boomer. See, Harem, fuck you. But we can all, exactly, Harem. I'll own it. You own it. But at the end of the day, the technology it's moved massively over.
What it's going to be like in the future?
Oh God! I have no idea.
Quantum. Mate, honestly said, I think it's quantum, because they already be skipping like 128-bit processors, and they're straight up working on the quantum mechanics. So they're just studying that, so if they can create like quantum computers. I think that's the future for us.
Do you think that'll actually happen though? Because we say it's so expensive, but
it should happen, but in about 100 years.
Oh, sorry, boys. Can I just put in Gal Halavi has just said Insurgency is live right now, but yet again, no console info. I do apologise, Gal. We're doing a podcast at the moment. I'd love to get on this. I'd love to be able to support you, but I'm just doing our own thing at the moment. If you could private message me, let me know what's going on, screenshot everything, and I'll try to get on it for you. We would love to know what's going on. Do me a favour, if you're not banned, say Devlin said people are still not getting paid for the refunds for the Xbox. There's people actually still thinking that they can still play the game. They're not getting refunds. Gal, if you can do that, do that for me and get back. You can private message me or you can put in the public chat. I've nothing to hide. That'll be brilliant. Thank you, Gal. And if it's been a while, I do apologise. We're having a chat. Thank you. Sorry, boys.
No worries.
No worries, man. So, yeah, like everyone said, it's been a lot of changes. So I want to also focus on like Ryzen 4000 series and Zen 3 architecture, as well as like 1109. I don't know how to pronounce Intel's fucking SKUs. So it's 11th generation, and apparently still going to be like Skylake nanometers. So what do you think about the next generation, which is coming like in 2021?
I personally think it's going to be too expensive for me. I just bought a new fucking house. But you know what? I think
catching up with GPU costs as well.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous.
I think because they think they can.
Yeah. Madness.
I don't know, Chris. You know what? I think. You've asked the question. I would love to be able to upgrade to the best processor at the moment, and I'm sure it's out of this world, but I'm not sure I can afford it. I'm honestly not sure I can. Yeah, exactly. We'd actually all like to go there. I mean, the technology is absolutely fantastic, but I honestly, yeah, exactly. I'm not sure what I can say because, Chris, if you could explain. What the benefits are to upgrade for the new processors, or do you think the prices match what the technology is? I'd probably have more to say because I'm not overly. All I can say is I probably can't afford that.
Yeah.
So what can I say? Well, if you take, for example, we had like the 4900X and we have the 3950X. So the main difference between them is like 12 cores and 16 cores. So the difference is that 4900X costs $500 and like that one costs $750. That's already overpriced for basically 4 cores. Why should you pay more if you can get more for less? That's how I say it. So there's definitely truth.
That's true, actually. More for less. Yeah.
It's too overpriced, recently, to be fair. That's true. DDR memory started growing in prices. SSD started growing in prices. GPUs is just beyond the fucking limits now because of $2,000 stuff and all of that problems. And now CPUs started getting really spicy with the prices. I think with the next generation, maybe Ryzen 5000, it should be around $1,000 to get like the top end. That's my guesses for it. What do you think, everyone? Will it grow or not?
I personally don't know. In all fairness, do you know what I mean? I'm quite. Sometimes I think I will say I like what I like. I have to see more marketing on products before I'll make my decision. Or I like to see something more than. You know what? I'm going to have to say, Chris, I don't know too much about. That to make an actual comment myself. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm the same. I don't know enough. I just see a process. I'm like, okay, that looks alright. I might buy it. I'm not like invested into looking. Maybe I should do it more, but I just don't. I suppose I don't really focus on it as much as maybe I should when I try and make a purchase on a CPU or something. I just looked at i9 and I thought, okay, it looks alright. Does what I want it to do. But maybe I should have looked at it a bit more. But I'm the same as Devlin. I don't really know enough about it.
So Chris, can you sort of educate us in more layman's terms?
on the CPU power. So
Yeah. I mean, and how, say for argument's sake, how they would justify a price for the new CPUs.
So if you take the lower end, that's like a budget. So they're saying like, all right, this is our product. If you buy it, you enter like the budget pricing, because they have like the 3, the 5, 7 and 9. So you can clearly tell 3 is like for the budget, 7 is for the middle class, 5 is for the middle class, 7 is more for more than middle class, but don't want to spend a lot of money to get the top. And there's, of course, Ryzen 9, which is basically bleeding edge, what everything wants. So if you want the most powerful thingy that the provider has, you go for the number 9, since it has basically everything that is bleeding edge. So you have the raw power that you want to have. If you want for the, more or less a good gaming experience and to do at least some editing, not hardcore one for the 9 series, then you should go for the 7. If only for gaming, you go for the 5. And only for example, like Photoshop, light works, you go for the 3. That's how it goes.
But if you wanted to multitask, you wanted to stream, you have to go for something like the 9.
If you want to go for the heavy duty, you have to go for the upper one. That's why I'm streaming. For me personally, a lot has changed in the life after upgrading from the i7 to the Ryzen 7. I started using a lot more tabs. I started using a lot more applications. I always have like Photoshop, Premiere, a lot of editing, a lot of streaming. And now with the Ryzen 9, I'm basically just godlike. I have Photoshop, Premiere, OBS, a lot of stuff in the background. I have like the stream running. There's also the games which I use. So it's a lot of stuff going for me.
And it's all running fine. Everything's running fine for you.
Yes, and everything is working fine, just like you said. So I went for the bleeding edge because I honestly need it, because I'm using crazy heavy usage on this thing.
So should we actually go there, Chris? Should we actually, because what you've give there is really valid points. You're doing all your stuff, and
I'm saying to you this straight. If you're a content producer, which works really heavily like me, because I got myself a job as an editor, so I really need this CPU, because even Ryzen 7, for me, it struggled to render some things, some projects that I had from my work. So upgrading to this thing was like a huge rock off the back for me. For you, if you're going to just a game and like edit videos, I suppose like a Ryzen 7 should be enough. If you're heavy duty like me, then for sure go with the Ryzen 9. That's what I say.
Okay, gents, we should probably finish off here, but I would like to ask, if possible, obviously I'm not the Sergeant fucking Major here, but I'm going to go to Ben first. What's your system at the moment? Are you happy with it, and do you think you would change?
Change to what do you mean?
I don't know, any processor. Obviously I'll give my impressions, Chris will give his impressions. So you've got X system here. You don't have to give your specs, but
I might as well, yeah.
But if you're happy with that, how your experience is with gaming and obviously editing, streaming, etc. Are you happy with that? Would you consider changing, etc.? And I'm going to ask that you, Chris, afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy with the system that I've got right now, but I am, maybe it's just me, but maybe other PC players are like this, but I'm always thinking about the next thing. But I am happy with what I've got. I mean, I've got a 9900K, an RTX 2080 Super. They're mainly like the two main components, really. I've got an SSD as well, 16 gigabytes of RAM. But I think I'd want maybe more RAM, because on some games, especially now, they're demanding even more RAM. It's like 16 gigabytes is kind of like become the minimum now on some games, I've noticed, especially, which are like more textures, those kind of things. So I probably want more RAM. But I think for now it does the job. It helps, render my videos pretty fast. I know there are processors that are probably faster for rendering, mainly on the AMD side, but I think my processor kind of balances the two between gaming and editing, so it's perfect for what I need right now. In terms of like, if I was going to be updating, the thing that I'd be updating would be the graphics card. It wouldn't be the CPU, because I feel like I brought the CPU. It's kind of future-proof for at least a couple of years, and so I'm probably just going to be sticking with that CPU and then just upgrading maybe the RAM and the graphics card.
Oh, cool. And you, Chris?
For me, it's honestly upgrading the system entirely. If it actually goes from switching. So from what I heard, the future of tech is going to be ATX 12 volt. So basically that's a new type of motherboard. There's of course DDR5, new SSDs like PCIe 4. There's a lot of planned upgrades. Personally, for me, it's mostly related to the CPU, because I'm heavily into editing and I need a lot of raw power to actually have these videos rendered faster. Because at my work I make about 15 to 20 per day, and I need a lot of power to just render them faster so I can have an easier time to just sharing them to my boss. And the GPUs, I suppose it's just like an upgrade once for years, because like you said, the GPUs is just for gaming. So personally, I use them for gaming. Now that I want to stream, I am forced to upgrade to something great. About the RAM, I'm not sure, because from the start I got myself like 48 gigabytes, so that is beyond any of my problems. And for the storage, of course, right now it's a bit of a problem related with the Call of Duty stuff, because from what I heard, 300 gigabytes for...
It's fuck all!
So,
ridiculous, mate.
For the SSDs, I think 500 gigabytes is enough. For the hard drive, at least get 4 terabytes. That's minimum for 2020. It should be growing with each year if Call of Duty gets unoptimized garbage every year. So that's my only tutorial.
Cool. For me, I'm still on a Ryzen 7. I'm quite happy with it. Like I said before, I'm on a 1070. I'm quite happy with that at the moment. I will upgrade. It'll probably be this year, don't tell Jack. But I've got SSDs coming out of my arse, to be honest. I've got, I can't even reach over. But I've got external SSDs, I've got internal SSDs. I'm quite happy with my system at the moment. It seems to be doing all right at the moment. So I will, I think, upgrade very soon, but I think I'm trying to be really quick because Jack's just come in. I think I will get a second machine and use the other one for just rendering only and streaming rendering only. But overall, I think I will stick with AMD. I might consider AMD GPUs, but I'm happy with the system at the moment.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
So, gentlemen, how was the stream tonight for you?
I enjoyed it. Brilliant.
We've obviously not finished just yet.
It's a shame that we didn't have, of course, Slavic Pigeon and Stealth Slicer.
Yeah, obviously they've got the things that they need to do.
Well, I hope everyone enjoyed this stream. Who is going to wrap it up first?
Well, you do yours, Chris.
Alright everyone, so I'm going to switch now to the end game, because as you can clearly tell, this is the end game, the end of the stream. Cheers everyone for joining us for the hot discussions, because this one was really appreciated. I've seen like about 9 viewers at the same time, so really appreciated for the support today. I'm also really appreciating you guys for commenting. There was like a long list of comments, so cheers Alpha, cheers Harm King, also Must Raider there, and Call of Duty Gaming. Thank you everyone for commenting and taking your time to check out my live stream. Hopefully we'll do more of these podcasts, and don't remember everyone, drop a like, subscribe. That's Chris from CT Gaming. This is Mr. Devlin from Restless Natives, and of course Ben from North Cinematics.
Later.
Thank you, gentlemen. And we're going to end the stream here tonight. Don't forget to subscribe to Chris at CT Gaming and Ben at North Cinematics. It'd be great if you could do that. And we're going to end the stream tonight. I've really enjoyed it, actually, talking about tech. A lot of the things I didn't know about, because it's new, a lot of the things I did know about. But thank you for coming to the stream tonight. And this is Mr. Devlin and the other guys. Out. God, that was so lame. And this is the other guys. Out. Right, guys, I think I've stopped streaming. Oh, shit, I haven't stopped streaming.
Alright, that's me also stopping